So you're thinking about moving to Colorado Springs, and who can blame you? Man, the weather is beautiful here. There's a ton of opportunities for outdoor adventure. The job growth is fantastic, and we are booming from a population standpoint. But there's a couple things you have to know about our overall economy and the housing market before you make the jump, because that's a huge investment. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that there's some things out there that you might not want to hear when you're thinking about moving to Colorado Springs. And not very many people want to talk about this because it kind of puts a negative light on moving to Colorado Springs, but that's what's on today's agenda, so let's hop in. 21 years ago, when my family moved out to Colorado Springs from East Central Illinois, we didn't even have what's known as the Powers Corridor all the way out east, and that's where all the growth has come in those 2 decades since we've been here. And the reality of it is that costs resources from a water standpoint, from a power standpoint, from all of these different infrastructure standpoints. And it's just gotten so big in Colorado Springs, and it's not sustainable. And what it has brought when it comes to a state legislative level is the fact that we're trying to work within some of the requirements that they have at a state level, and we just can't do it. So we talk about infrastructure all the time on our channel. And the reality of it is there's a $921 million budget shortfall from a state level. And they're worried about a light rail between Colorado Springs and Denver, which is fine. And I think that's great from a commuter standpoint. But where's that $921 million coming from? I can assure you they're not putting it towards roads. Now, I love that they like to put initiatives out on every single ballot. Hey, we're going to take all this money from the weed shops and we're going to give it to education. But they're leaving it K through 12, not higher education, which one of the big employers here in Colorado Springs is UCCS. Well, for those of you scoring at home, that's not K through 12. That's secondary education. There's also green initiatives. We just had this happen over at the Drake Power Plant. There's a green initiative where they're trying to eliminate some of the greenhouse gases and things like that. That's fine, but where are all of these funds coming from the state level? Even at a federal level, they have said, hey, greenhouse gases have to be eliminated by 2040. The state of Colorado wants to do better, so they say 2030, 2035, and we don't have any resources to do that. So what are they doing? That's going to impact taxes. And we've already seen plenty of studies that say the average sales price of a home in Colorado Springs is going to be $1 million here within the next 10 years. And it stands to reason, because the reality of it is we are growing so fast, and the taxes and everything else that come along with those homes, we have ground that we absolutely have to make up for here in Colorado Springs. So again, Colorado Springs, there's just a huge deficit when it comes to where all of our money and our resources are going to. And I get it. Our population has been booming year over year, decade after decade, and we have not kept up with that at all from an infrastructure standpoint. And so we're on the back side of that now. And I get it. People love Colorado Springs. Why? Because the employers, we have Fort Carson, we have aerospace, we have Lockheed Martin, we have all of these amazing opportunities when it comes to Colorado Springs, but we don't have the resources, and we certainly don't have the plans for infrastructure when it comes to that. Again, say what you want, builders have got some folks in their back pocket. Developers write a check, and developers don't have to pay for all the infrastructure where they build. The city gets to pay for that. We don't have the resources for it. Something has to change. We simply don't, it's not sustainable. How we have gotten to where we are is no longer sustainable. So prices will continue to go up. Taxes will continue to go up, which is interesting because right now in the state of Colorado, while it is very, very expensive to buy a home in the state, our taxes, comparatively to other states in the union, are pretty low. Well, where's the money going to come from? Of course, it's going to come from taxes. And so it's back to the green conversation when they want builders to meet certain levels of green this and green that. Well, that's fine. They're happy to do that. Referring back to the $921 million shortfall in the state budget. Well, who's going to pay for that? Well, the builder's going to have to pay for that. Well, the builders are not really well known for eating those costs. They're probably going to pass that on, you think? So that's going to raise the cost of housing here in Colorado Springs. And when we talk about resources in Colorado Springs, one thing that it's very important to talk about is water. Those of you who have watched our videos in the past understand we are a semi-arid climate, which means we're just one step above a desert here in Colorado Springs. It's super dry. We talked about it just a few weeks ago. Got to have lotion, got to drink water, got to hydrate, all that stuff. It's dry here in the state of Colorado, Colorado Springs specifically. We just don't get that much moisture. Well, if we are continuing to build, where's that water coming from? Now, I understand that there are agreements within the state with other Western states where they get some of the water rights that we have. And that's all well and good. I'm sure that somebody who's much more educated than I am and on a political level, they know more about the water resources than I do. But where's our water coming from? We don't have enough water to justify the kind of growth that we're in right now. So what does that mean? Utilities are just going to go up because we're going to have to find alternative resources to get that water to Colorado Springs and supply our population. Well, just so you're scoring at home, do you know who the Colorado Springs Utilities Board is? Colorado Springs City Council. If you guessed Colorado Springs City Council, you are correct. So you can see how this is all tied together, and it's just not sustainable long term. It's just not. And so we have to come up with some sort of answer to where our water's coming from, and sharing it with other states is probably a really good place to start because we don't have that luxury anymore if we're going to continue the kind of growth that we have here in Colorado Springs. Now, if you're thinking about buying a house in Colorado Springs, awesome. I don't blame you. Lord knows I did it, and it's fantastic. Yep, the natives are going to hate you, and if you want to know who the natives are, just check out the comments below because they're telling us to get out. But the point is this: we have got to do a better job of making sure, if you are thinking about buying a home, don't tap out on your budget because it is expensive to live here. Just because you can afford $800,000 doesn't mean you should buy $800,000 or whatever your price point is. You have to be wise when you're thinking about buying a home in Colorado Springs because it's expensive. Everything is on the rise here, everything. So it's a good thing that we have all those high paying jobs and everything else here in Colorado Springs because we need them. And yes, aerospace. I know that the conversation since that orange guy got elected in November, Air Force is going to move again. And before the comments start flowing in, I call him the orange guy. Look, it doesn't matter who you voted for. I'm just trying to give you a snapshot of what's going on in our city. Donald Trump does not like the fact that Colorado is blue. And it doesn't matter who I voted for. It really doesn't. This state was going to be blue regardless of who I voted for. Donald Trump does not like the fact that Colorado is blue, and he wants to take Air or Space Force away. That makes zero sense to me because the infrastructure is already in place for the Space Force here. So disagree with me all you want. Love your comments. Thanks for boosting the algorithm. But the point is, we have great paying jobs here in Colorado Springs. Space Force is one of them. And no matter what happens trying to move Space Force to a red state, that's silly. We will continue to be a draw for high paying, highly educated jobs. And again, that's why I go back to when we have secondary education, we have to do better as a state, making sure that we're funding those secondary education institutions like UCCS and CU Colorado Springs. It's a big deal. It's not just K through 12. The reality of it is we were one of the first states in the union to legalize weed, and our economy has not seen the benefits of that yet. And yet every single ballot, there's an initiative that says, shouldn't we use this extra money we're getting from weed to pay for all this other stuff? How is there a $921 million shortfall? I judge that the people under the dome up in Denver probably owe a better explanation than what we're getting so far, because we've sold an inordinate amount of weed if you ask all the owners of those shops. So where's the money going? Anyway, not to be a downer, if you are thinking about coming to Colorado Springs, it's important that you understand we are going through a very dramatic shift from a pricing standpoint in this state and in this area. It is expensive to live in Colorado. It's expensive to live in Colorado Springs. So all of that beauty, all of the opportunity, all of the amazing things that Colorado Springs has to offer comes at a price. So as you're thinking about moving to Colorado Springs, let's make sure that we get you in the right spot so you can succeed long term and your stay here in Colorado Springs is sustained. We want to be your neighbor. We're excited for you to be part of our community. We just want to make sure you know what you're getting into.